Okay. Losgehen. Wechsel schon mal schnell. Und bitte Kopfhörer. Ja. Dann geht's weiter, wo ich gestern aufgehört habe. So. Habe ich das nicht schon gelesen? Warte mal. Warte. Ah, nee, anscheinend nicht. Na, egal. You said October 10:44 AM, the Old Bailey Defendants Chamber. Mr. Naruto, what on earth have you playing at just now? Or whether... What on earth were you playing at all along? My hypothesis, my amazing hypothesis, you have been picking holes in it from the start? Ah, sorry about that. But you promised me... You said you proved that toilet explosion was an accident, not murder. You said you would keep my precious invention from falling into anyone else's hands. But all you have done so far is try to undermine me. Yes, I did make you a promise, you're right. I said that I would believe in you and fight for your freedom to the very end. But I also told you I was no scientist, and I don't understand your hypothesis. The fact is, there is an undeniable flaw in your logic, isn't there? But if I just run through some equations... Yes, you see, it's because my work is incomplete. Perhaps it is, nevertheless. I mean, a man died as a consequence, didn't he? Oh, no. Yeah. You're right. You're so right. It's all my fault. I have no right to blame you for my failures. I'm a disaster, not just as a scientist, but as a human being. Well, that might be a little over the top. And while we are on the subject, what about Barrett? He's being awful. Claiming his old university friend to be a murderer, you mean? He's a disaster, not just as a persecutor, but as a human being. Oh, but no, wait, he's the Reaper, isn't he? Perhaps he's not classified as Homo sapiens anymore. Glad that's cleared up. Can I double check something with you? Oh, yes, what? The machine and the demonstration you prepared were based entirely on your hypothesis, I presume? There was no trickery involved? I drew the plans for the machine with my own hands. Every line was painstakingly drawn with the firm belief that science is the only future. So it's true that my hypothesis hasn't reached maturity yet, but please, Mr. Naruto, you must believe in it. Alright, Professor, I understand. Counsel defendant. Prosecution's witnesses are ready to take the stand. Court is about to be in session again. Make your way into the courtroom, please. Okay. It all hangs on that demonstration. The Professor's hypothesis sounds as the claims. It leaves him as the only person who could possibly have been killed, the victim. But on the other hand, Mr. Sholmes was adamant. A practical implementation such as was attempted by the Professor at a great exhibition is quite impossible. So really, what should I be trying to prove here? Will ich schon machen. On the 3rd October, 11 AM. The Old Bailey courtroom. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby reconvene the proceedings of this court. Counsel for the defense and prosecution, are you ready for the new witnesses to testify? The prosecution is ready, my lord. As is the defendant's defense, my lord. So, Lord Van Zieks, I believe the next witnesses saw the demonstration on the day in question with their own eyes. Indeed, they did. And as luck would have it, one of them is a police detective. The testimony we're about to hear can be considered highly reliable. Perfect, a detective of all people. The prosecution's stance remains unchanged. Though it ended in tragedy, the demonstration on the day in question was scientifically sound. And consequently, the sole person with the opportunity to have committed this act of murder is the only other individual to have been present on the stage at the time, the accused. Thank you, counsel. The prosecution position is clear. So, bring further witnesses now. Bailiff, show the witnesses in. The witnesses whose proximity to the incident on the day in question will clarify the truth unequivocally. Oh. Witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court to hear. My name is Baldassar Loon. I am the impressor of the hot air balloon in vicinity of the experimental stage. My name is Wilhelm Gottsweich Sigismund Ormstein. Ooh, okay. I have to come to see the great exhibition all the way from my home in Bohemia. I'm very rich. Ja, das sieht man. Inspector Gina Lestrade, Scotland Yard. I'm a great detective, even Erlock Sholmes agrees. I was on security duty at the exhibition and I got to go up on one of them balloons. It was amazing. Gina again. But she did mention that she had seen the disaster from up in the balloon actually, did she? And she clearly loved every minute of it. There were 3 balloons flying near the public experimentation stage when the incident occurred. 2 of these witnesses were in such balloons at Emheim and saw events unfold from the skies above. You make it sound like they were in the clouds. It was only an altitude of circa 60 feet, very low. Well, you can't see nothing if I fly too high, can ya? 60 feet, about 18 meters then? So 18 Meter? Thank you for good introductions. Now you will give your formal testimony for the court. Kindly describe exactly what you witnessed, especially those of you who had a vantage point above the stage. Dann. Sagt mal. The view from 60 feet up. It was an accident, terribly. I'm only grateful that my balloons were not damaged. There's this huge bang from the stage, and then the next second, another bang in the sky beside us. And from amidst the smoke, a cage appeared out of nowhere. The cage it fell from the sky like a stone and crashed into the crystal tower. I didn't get a good look inside the cage, but no one went near it after it crashed into the tower. A most extraordinary collective amount, I must say. Did I just clarify something? Detail in the witness testimony that I have not heard any mention of until now. Specifically that there were 2 explosions. More precisely, 2 explosions in 2 separate places, yes. When the demonstration began, the balloon carrying the 2 witnesses was around here. There were 2 balloons in the air nearby the time carrying other passengers as well, to be clear. Then, as power was supplied to the machine for the demonstration, the first explosion occurred. The so-called birdcage that contained the victim disappeared from the stage, and a moment later, the second explosion occurred directly adjacent to the balloon carrying the witness. The birdcage appeared at the site of the explosion, subsequently to plump down into the crystal tower. It was very surprised suddenly a cage appeared before my eyes with a person inside. The blast was so hot but it didn't want to miss a thing, so I kept my eyes wide. Still have lots of money. Wow. Precisely, who is this curious infant? I'm told he is a young noble of Bohemian royalty. Apparently he disguised himself in order to steal unnoticed into the Great Exhibition. Yeah, I'm here in London on a sightseeing trip with my elementary school. We will have the benefit of a child's point of view in the testimony. So we really need that. When I remove my mask, this is what I like they look like. Yes, I see, a delightful face, I'm sure. Yeah, everybody says so. Great disguise then. The point is, testimony of the witnesses further substantiate the facts for the court. Namely, that despite ending in an explosion, instantaneous were successfully demonstrated. And furthermore, that until the arrival of the police, no one approached the crystal tower where the victim fell. Therefore, only the accused who was with Mr. Esmond on the stage could possibly have committed the murder. Yes, thank you, counsel. Prosecution views on the matter are quite clear. So, defense cross-examination now, please. My lord. Yeah. I'm grateful that my balloons were not damaged. There were 3 balloons flying above the experimental stage at the time, understand? Sisi. All 3 of them by my bellissimi bambini. They are very popular, senor. Some people will pay £10 for one ride. £10? That's more than my annual stipend. £20 a month, that's my pocket money. Royals have all the luck. I got up for free, I did. Played it the old I work for a mighty policy card, you know. Detectives have all the luck. If they are so popular, why would you only be operating such a small number of balloons though? Because if I have too many in the skies, they could crash into each other. The operators for the balloons were decided by lot, with each operator managing a particular area. See, and the zone above public experimentation stage is the most profitable. The other impresarios, they hate me. Thank you, witness. I think the court has a clear picture of the arrangement for balloon rides at the exhibition. Perhaps you could hear more about what you actually witnessed of the incident. Right, I can fill you in there, my lord. Oof. Yeah, this huge bang from the stage and then the second bang. Hold it! So you actually saw the incident happen from up in the air? Yep. Isn't it amazing what a detective gets to do, eh? I'm telling ya, although being a lawyer is a good game, you should join the force and we can go flying together. You know me so well. Yes, well, anyway. Could you tell us exactly what you saw, do you think? Everything. We saw everything because we were above it all. That dodgy glove climbing into the cage and that dodgy professional pulling out them levers. And that's when it happened. That's when there was that massive bang and the cage disappeared, just like that. You are describing the moment the subject's body was decomposed by the electricity, I believe? I didn't know what to make of it, but then there was another bang right in my ear. I looked around and there was a huge great fireball right next to us in the sky, and there was nothing there before. Excuse me? Excuse me. Master Gods, does your memory of the day differ? My teacher at elementary school was said that when you met someone for the first time, you should always use the full name. Ah, yes, what was it again? Wilhelm Gottfried Sigismund Ormstein. Just the four names then? Point is, do you have something to say? Something to add in response to Detective Gina Lestrade's last remark, perhaps? Oh, get it right, Otto. It's Inspector Lestrade. Or does everyone have a problem with how I address them at the moment? That is not what I saw. Huh? Yeah. There was a second explosion and it was right beside our balloon. That is true. But I'm sure, which is what I said, and that 1 minute there was nothing there. The next is massive explosion. My teacher at elementary school said that when someone else is speaking, if you are rude enough to interrupt, we have the most awful life imaginable. Are all Bohemians brought up to be full of joy? Just before the second explosion happened next to our balloon, I clearly witnessed a green balloon flying in the sky. A green balloon? You what? I never saw nothing like that. Well, I did. I saw it, and you can't say I didn't. I will complain to the council. I will cry and scream. My testimony is the truth. I'm a Bohemian prince. You cannot say it's a lie. That is not allowed. Playing the bleeding royalty card, are you? Typical. There's the orphan who likes to remind people she works for Her Majesty's police. In that case, young man, I must ask you to amend your formal testimony in the interest of national relations between Great Britain and Bohemia. It was not the sky as well, it was a green balloon that was next to us. Green balloon?
Objection!
Verdammt! Okay. Dann darf ich es jetzt noch nicht zeigen. Oh, wow. Ja, okay, das darf ich jetzt noch nicht sein. Okay, ein grüner Ballon. A green balloon, you say? Are you sure about that? Of course I am. I'm a proud Bohemian prince. Oh, it's a question making me boring. I think you mean bored? Ah, English is very annoying. The language of my countrymen is far superior. Okay. Ragazzo, it's very wrong to lie. Lie? Flying balloons never explode. For the same reason, the planets never explode. It is logical. Please tell me that doesn't mean logical. If you insult me, you insult all of Bohemia. Madai. I will have the army come and shoot all of your stupid balloons out of the sky. All of them. Oh, jetzt kauft ihr nochmal. Here you are, your highness. Oh, wow. Only all international incidents were so easily resolved, yeah. Now that peaceful relations have been restored here in the courtroom, perhaps we could return to the testimony. Did you also see the moment the cage materialized, Mr. Loon? No, I did not see the explosion myself. However, the cage just fell from the sky like a stone and crashed into the crystal tower.
Hold it!
You see that actually happen? No, in reality I did not. I saw after it hit the tower. There was a grande confusion around the stage. I ran to see what had happened. I was terrorized by the idea that one of my balloons had crashed. I suppose they are as life float. But when I looked up in the sky, all my precious balloons were still there. I saw it though, I saw the slam into the tower. After all, I'm the detective now. Then tell us what you saw, Inspector Lestrade. That's what I like to hear. Yeah. I got a good look inside the cage, but no one went any after the crash in the tower. Was it you who gave the order to keep people away? You said that, although who could it have been? I was up in a balloon, weren't I? Right. Because I weren't available, it was the boss who had to leg it over here. I was getting shoved and kicking all over by the panicking spectators as he tried to seal off the scene. It was a real sight to behold, I can tell you. Amazing. Poor Inspector Gregson. Anyway, I could see the cage well because of all the smoke. I didn't really want to see, to be honest. I was scared out of my wits. Keep it together, Inspector. Prosecution really is asserting that the demonstration was genuine. But what if it was actually some kind of switch-around trick instead? That would mean that the victim was never actually on the stage in the first place. The two explosions would have drawn everyone watching into the panic for sure. I think I need to find out more about what exactly people saw at the time. Was kann ich denn da nutzen? A Green Balloon. Was habe ich denn als Beweise nochmal? Ah, warte mal. Kann ich es untersuchen? Nein, oder? Nein, kann alles sehen. So vielleicht? Looks like layers of thick canvas with a thick rubber line of sorts. Never seen anything like it before. Whatever applying Mr. Sholmes' methods, you might deduce it was part of a raincoat worn by someone who really didn't want to get wet. The carrying must have occurred when the person was struck by lightning. Or maybe not. Ja. Schwierig. Oh, es ist eine Armbrust. Habe ich hier die Mordwaffe gefunden? Und. Ah, there's some sort of lever here. Oh. What is this? It looks like a cross between a bow and a gun. I think it's probably used for the same thing too. Jetzt habe ich nichts. The cage had fallen from the sky like a stone and crashed into the crystal tower. Okay. You could look inside the cage, but no one went near it after it crashed into the tower. Niemand ist zum Tower gegangen. Was heißt denn nicht in der Nähe? Was will ich das? Bestimmt muss ich jetzt irgendwas mit diesem Beweis machen, aber einfach nur so ein Stück von der Plastik oder in Eine Jacke? Give me some famous like material.
Objection.
Nope. Okay, soll ich vielleicht nochmal überall nachfragen? Das hat jetzt noch was anderes. Ups. Ja, zurück.
Hold it.
Aber sie sagen nichts anderes.
Hold it.
Stimmt, da wurde ich unterbrochen. An einem gewissen Punkt. Ah, hier. I looked around and there was a huge red fireball right next to us in the sky, and there was nothing there before. And what appears out of the flames? The cage. That what? And the description sounds like the moment after the man was beamed instantly to space. It's mind-blowing, isn't it? But that's the 20th century for ya, I reckon. For the people who actually saw the demonstration with their own eyes, really believe they saw something miraculous taking place? Okay, wohl nichts Neues. Green balloon that next to us at the time. A green balloon.
Hold it.
Ach, wieder so eine Stelle,
Hold it.
die echt schwer ist.
Hold it.
Would have turned everyone watching into panic for sure. I think I need to find out more about what exactly people saw at the time. Another bang. Auch wenn es blöd ist. Wir wissen, welche Aussage hier ich irgendwas machen kann. Oh. Aber mir fällt nichts auf. Oder? Vielleicht doch dann doch der Bogen? Ah, hier! Was zum Teufel? Was? Ah, doch, hier! Das war auch mein Gedanke. Oh no, Alter. Das hätte ich auch gemacht, aber... Als er gesagt hat, es ist eine Regenjacke. Ja. Stimmt. Oh Mann. Miss Loon, into testimony. You said that all 3 of balloons you had operating at the time were undamaged. See, that is correct. If they had been caught in explosions, it would have been terrible. But, I wonder if you might know what this is. Was? Terrible. Ah, I think it may be... See, part of a balloon, a burnt piece of the fabric of the envelope. Sorry, the envelope. Pardon, that is the large round part of the balloon which becomes filled with hot air. It is made for a very thick fabric lined with rubber. You do not want it to rip when you are in the sky. Just as I thought. This piece of cloth was found near the experimentation stage, in other words, as Master Gods testified. A green balloon did indeed explode that day. If all the balloons in the sky above the experimentation stage belong to you, Mr. Loon, then your statement that they were all undamaged clearly contradicts the evidence. No! The balloon exploded that day. Didn't they mean to say so? Maybe everyone on board was killed. Oh no, having just spent 10 pounds for the experience? How awful. Seems to be like this thing's crashed 50% of the time anyway.
Objection.
The instant kinesis did occur, but after the explosion on the stage. The point of materialization shifted to a location occupied by a balloon. Causing the balloon to explode? Yes, eminently plausible. An unfortunate traffic accident, as it were, but it judges nothing about the pertinent facts. I cannot accept. Why not, Mr. Loon? You are suggesting that I am a liar? That person that died in the balloon incident? There's no need to get fired up, Mr. Loon. The victim was the sole fatality that day. That's right, and I prove it. Weiter the Loon is not a liar. There was no such balloon in the sky. This is not possibly. You are saying it's impossible? Why? This card has more important matter to discuss than the number of balloons that were operating that day.
Objection.
But we can't ignore the fact that nobody appears to have known anything about this other balloon until now. My lord, the defense allowed calls to further testimony from Mr. Loon. I concur. There is clearly more to the truth here than meets the eye. It's imperative that we clear up the issue of this phantom balloon, I feel. Witness, you will give supplementary testimony. With the balloons you were operating at the exhibition. Grazie, my lord. Dann mach mal hin. Balloons. I said, but the balloon is no liar. Every balloon I had in the sky landed safely. All 3 of balloons were carrying passengers. If they fell to the ground in this explosion, what a catastrophe. But you can't away from the fact that a burnt up bit of cloth was found at the scene, can ya? The coopers at the yard reckoned it was probably some debris thrown from the explosion on the stage. This tubular gas is mistaken. My balloons have the red and blue zigzag stripes anyway. So your assertion is that the balloon this child saw was not one belonging to you? See, exactamente. If he even saw a balloon in the first place. I do not like the sound of it. It's very bad for business. I have a good mind to sue you to the land of Bohemia. If you attack us, we'll find it back. It will be 4, all out 4. What happened to all-out war? The balloon certainly doesn't appear to be lying, but that doesn't change the fact that the testimony and evidence are contradictory here. If the defense is unable to find fault with the witnesses' statements, the court must consider them be the truth. Think long and hard on that, my learned friend. The situation has clearly changed now. I have to go to the bottom of that what happened here, no matter what it takes. Counsel, you may now cross-examine the witness. Okay.
Hold it!
You couldn't just have forgotten one, maybe? Senor, I might not notice if I was given 100 lentes and one was missing. But we are talking about 3 enormous balloons. Do you believe I could make a mistake about something so grand and expensive? I took the liberty of having Inspector Gregson check this gentleman's warehouse. I have to report here, it clearly says a total of 3 balloons. It would appear no mistake has been made then. Surely Miss Lestrade could have been sent for such a manual task. What? Me? I'll tell you what I told the boss. East End kids like me can only count up to 2. Obviously that ain't true, but the boss brought it and said he had to have to go himself in that case. Ah. The 2 balloons were carrying passengers. Yeah. It would be quite a catastrophe if they fell to the ground for any reason, I think. On that note, Mr. Loon, tell me what is that keeps the balloons in the sky? Are you an idiota? Sorry. This is like asking why does a candle burn bright? It burns bright because it burns bright, and a balloon flies because it flies. What else? That must be an Italian for I don't know. There are 2 types of flying balloons, hot air balloons and gas balloons. Hot air balloons work on the principle of hot air being less dense than cold air. Whereas gas balloons deliver the lift by using a gas that is lighter than air. See, and my balloons are filled with the magic gas, I believe. Hydrogen, lighter than air, but highly explosive. Good lord. I do not permit smoking of the cigarettes in any of my balloons. The magic gas does not like fire. Even a small spark of static electricity could cause the entire balloon to explode. What is the matter with you, Signor? What that comes out of your mouth is explosion? I tell you, my balloons are perfectly safe. They have to be, or I cannot eat. None of my balloons exploded that day, I'm completely sure. But if you still say that what happened, you must show me the proof. Alright, so Mr. Loon had 3 balloons in the air that day. If none of them were damaged, then what was the one that exploded? Ah. But I can't away from the fact it burnt close. Ja, das hab ich auch am Anfang gedacht. I was surprised to find a piece of fabric still in the scene, actually. Didn't you search the area surrounding the stage for clues? Nah, I'm not into picking stuff up to the ground for me. Always works out way better diving into people's pockets instead. So much for the new career path. Mind you, the boss was on his hands and knees picking up all kinds of rubbish from the floor. Thing is though, the cage went crashing into the crystal tower, didn't it? But that's where the most of the investigation was going on. Even so, I would have thought someone from Scotland Yard would have gathered it up as evidence. Cool, listen to you. I stumbled across a bit of balloon and suddenly you're the best investigator in the world. Pardon? Well, you ain't got a badge, are you? Like this one. I could arrest you with this if I wanted to. I wouldn't put it past her. Come to think of it, there was talk of some scorching on the ground of a meeting we had about the investigation. The conversation you had to recognize it was probably some debris thrown from the explosion on the stage.
Hold it!
There was considerably damage to the stage and surrounding area, wasn't there? Yeah, some of the cops who were watching the experiment were caught in the blast and injured. Good job the oil contraption didn't keel over, huh? I hadn't even considered that. It seems there was great panic after the incident occurred. Nevertheless, the police shouldn't have missed a torn piece of the envelope from the balloon. Inspector Gregson can expect repercussions. Like me sweeping all the fish and chips, huh? The man saw pleasure. None of this matters. The scrap of the balloon envelope means nothing. Niente. This stupido ragazzo is mistaken. My balloons have the red and blue zigzag stripes. Anyway.
Hold it!
You mean the color is wrong? Si, senor. I do not have any green balloons in my warehouse. And yet a piece of green cloth was found at the scene. It's unmistakable from a balloon. Well, I do not know how that can be. For the sake of argument, let's say that a green balloon did explode above the stage. You couldn't therefore conclude that it happened on the day in question? Why not? There have been recreational balloons flights over Hyde Park operating from before the Great Exhibition. One could have exploded on some earlier date. Unfortunate, as I'm sure you would agree. You believe it may have been from some earlier balloon incident that predates the exhibition? Si, exactamente. As the senior says, it's not from one of my balloons. Clearly, the little Ragazzo from Bohemia is mistaken about what he saw.
Excuse me.
Something wrong, Master Gotts. It's Master Wilhelm Gottsreich Sigismund Orbenstein. It was on the tip of my tongue. Yeah, something is very wrong. I know what I saw. There was a green balloon there. I swear it. I swear all over Bohemia. You can speak as much bad language as you like, but it changed nothing. Oh man. If you do not have evidence, Ragazzo, then I must tell you, I want to punish you, huh? Perhaps we will let the judge decide when it comes to punishments. Evidence? What is this evidence? To give a simple example, young man. A photograph, for instance. Some tangible proof of what you claim. Well, first didn't you say sooner? I have the photograph here. Oh, dann warum nicht vorher? Good question. What? Sag's doch vorher. I had not been up in a balloon for a little while, so it was very exciting. Look, it took lots of photographs of the Crystal Tower, of the Bohemian exhibit, of the streets of London, of the hot cellar, the balloon. And the instances Queen's experiment, did you take a picture of that? Yeah, one picture. Really? You did take one? But all I wanted was a ride in the balloon. I was not interested in boring experiments. Never mind that. Can you show us that photograph? Of course, and then you will see. You will see that I'm not lying. That I really did see a green balloon. Well, I see you are also shocked to speak. Yes, I think shocked is indeed the word, young man. Yeah, perhaps you cannot see what this was the green balloon from this photograph, but that's not my fault. This is the fault of the stupid person who made this camera. That is one very bohemian sounding cry. Very well, the court will accept this photograph as evidence. I was waiting the balloon. The balloon that was a green explosion after moments they took the shot. Okay. Not my fault. It's the fault of the person who made the camera. Well, never mind. I'm sure you have plenty of wonderful spear memories to take home with you. In any case, when exactly did you take the photograph? Well, it was on the day of the big explosion. You don't say. When I pressed the shutter release, there was this very loud bang. And the hot wind rushed over my face. That means the photograph was taken a split second before the explosion occurred. Well, if you ask me, this black and white photograph changed nothing. I could not give the flying fig. Lovely language you have picked up. I thought, Mr. Loon's testimony just doesn't quite add up. The young Bohemian boy claims to have seen another fourth balloon. Mr. Loon rampantly denies the possibility, and it's hard to imagine the man in charge could be mistaken about the number that were in the air. Still, this inconsistency must tell us something, I'm sure. Was ist denn der weiße Pfeil, das da hochfliegt? Huh. Hardware Balloons were clearing passengers. Nein. Ich hoffe mal, das reicht. Da war niemand drin. Unfortunately, the photograph master got can't tell us the color of the balloon. But it can tell us something else. Something crucial important. What? It shows that the picture balloon wasn't carrying any passengers. Ah, my goodness, you're right. But surely the balloons would have been carrying passengers. There would be no sense in it otherwise. So, see, they are for pleasure, for seeing the view. My balloons only fly with passengers. Which tells us that the pictured balloon isn't one of them. When the incident occurred today, there was a fourth balloon in the sky above. The experimental stage. The mysterious green balloon. I know nothing, Niente. I can only tell you one thing. This balloon was not carrying passengers, and it was not one of mine.
Objection!
There are illegal tradesmen everywhere you care to look. Clearly one such entrepreneur decided to capitalize on the opportunity presented by the Great Exhibition and managed to operate balloon flights on Mr. Loon's patch without him realizing. See, the competition trying to steal my profits. I did not notice because of the experimento that went wrong on the stage. This fourth balloon exploded at the very same time, the moment Mr. Aspen was beamed from the stage below. Right, so them scraps that fell to the ground after and left them scorch marks. It didn't come from the stage at all, it was the bits of the balloon raining down. But because no one was in it, I didn't get no attention. Mysterious fourth balloon carrying no passengers, silently flying over the experimental stage.
Objection!
This photograph shows us nothing more. A stray balloon carrying no one and operated by some rogue trader. Clearly it has nothing to do with the case. Its relevance does include me, I must say. The court has seen sufficient evidence and heard ample testimony already. Prosecution calls for this trial to be concluded. Really? Have we really got to the truth yet? No, I can't let this opportunity slip away. The jurors' minds are made up, and not in our favor. What else can this photograph tell us? Is there nothing more we can learn from it? There's more. Oh yeah, there is more.
Objection!
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, wait, please don't give your decisions yet. Photograph from Master Gods may well be hiding one more vital clue. What's that? Vital clue?
Objection!
We are all past the point of mere possibilities. It's time for definitive now, so tell the court. What exactly does this alleged clue in the photograph prove? Cause of the explosion. Can we reasonably assume that the pictured balloon was destroyed in the shelving heat of the explosion? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was not my fault. Evidently, because the bird cage from the Kinesis machine materialized in the sky where it had been flying. And the balloon, being filled with flammable hydrogen, instantly and explosive ignited.
Objection!
No. No, that's not what happened. What? It would appear that this photograph requires closer examination. Counsel for defense, we will highlight the location of the leaked clue in the photograph for the court. Of course, my lord. If you look closely, it's plain enough to see, and what's shown is linked to another piece of evidence we have. In a way that leads to an unbelievable conclusion. The clue that heavily suggests the real reason the balloon exploded is... Yeah, so passt. The timing of this photograph can only be described as miraculous. If you look, you will notice there's a bright white line that appears to point directly at the balloon. Most likely a ray of light caught incidentally on the phone. I'm afraid I can see nothing of the sort. If you look with a magnifying glass, my lord, it becomes clear what the nature of this bright line really is. Goodness, what is that? Undeniable, some flash of light, yes. Oh golly, do you think it might be lightning? It could have been a finer day. I believe me looking at fire. A bolt of fire heading straight for the balloon. Like an arrow? Indeed, even to my itching eyes it would appear to be a flame of some sort. My word, are you suggesting this flame struck the hydrogen gas that filled the balloon?
Objection!
It's absurd. The balloon would have been 60 feet above the ground at the time. No flame could possibly have reached such a height.
Objection!
Actually, it's my opinion that a particular piece of evidence found at the scene reveals how that is exactly what had happened. What evidence? If such evidence exists, Counsel, then for goodness sake, present it, man. Which evidence explains this mysterious track of flame that appears to be headed directly for the balloon?
Take that!
This was found hidden, the fruit of a small ornament tree near the scene. Good lord, is that a crossbow? An arrow dipped in oil and set alight could have been shot from this weapon, sending a flaming arrow straight into the hydrogen-filled balloon. Are you suggesting that crossbow was used to deliberate? Tell me, you're right, that strike a light in photo looks just like an arrow, doesn't it? Then the explosion of the balloon, it was very likely the result of a flaming arrow from this crossbow, igniting the hydrogen gas inside it. No! Order, Counsel. This is an extraordinary suspicion. If the aim was to cause the balloon to explode, the shooter could have used a gun, of course. However, there's an obvious reason why that would have been out of the question. The noise of the discharge? Of course. That's right. By using a crossbow, the projectile could be fired at the balloon silently. Well, yeah, if someone had shot a gun off the exhibition grounds, it would have caused a real panic. And with the big explosion, there was a very big panic anyway, no? Don't like this. I should be pleased to have found a plausible new explanation for all this, but something feels wrong.
Objection!
Do you understand the implication of what you're saying? My Japanese friend? Flaming arrow did indeed hit the balloon. Obviously it would have exploded. And if the birdcatcher appeared from the cloud of smoke that ensued... wait a minute, what are you really saying? I don't get it. Was that birdcatch beamed up into the sky after all? Or... what? My goodness me! Now I understand. That's what that sinking feeling is about. I think there's a good chance that the birdcage was actually concealed inside the balloon all along. What? Did I just hear that correctly, Counsel? There's no going back now. The horse has bolted. Let's assume, as I said, that the birdcage was hidden inside the green balloon from the start. On stage, when the experiment was started, the birdcage in the instantly cleansed machine disappeared in a cloud of smoke. The moment, a flaming arrow was fired from the ground, causing the green balloon to explode and drawing the attention of the spectators of the sky above their heads. From amid the smoke, the hidden birdcage then appeared, to fall down and crash into the crystal tower. I think you will all agree it's entirely plausible that what I have just described is the real truth behind the miraculous experiment carried out that day. Good grief.
Objection!
This is ridiculous. What you have described is not science experiment. It's child's play, a contemptible display of stage magic. Both Mr. Sholmes and Ira said that the experiment was a scientific impossibility, in which case this is the only way to explain what happened that day. In any case, the victim's body was found inside the birdcage in the Crystal Tower. If the instantaneous skin kinesis didn't take place, how do you explain that? I may put in a word, as a man of magic myself. Such experiment discrepancies can easily be explained by some simple deception. Juror number 3. All that would be needed is a doppelganger, some who looked very similar to the victim, Mr. Assman. And having this other man appear on stage to front the show as a body double. Yes, of course, so in fact, Mr. Assman must have been inside the birdcage that was concealed inside the balloon right from the start.
Objection!
That balloon would have been filled with hydrogen. Anything hidden inside it would have been scattered to the four winds when it exploded. No one would ever have been marked on such risky venture. Not necessarily the explosive force of the balloon gas would very much depend upon the mixture ratio. Juror number 4. Flying balloons are rarely filled up with pure hydrogen, but a mixture of both gases, such as helium as well. Helium is on its own doesn't explode, but by controlling the gas mixture ratio, the explosive force can be altered. Mixture ratio? Obviously, the victim's body would have suffered some burns. That would be unavoidable. But not such an extent as to render this whole absence experiment impossible. Die Jury endlich mal auf meiner Seite. So everything that happened can be explained, logically and scientifically. The explosion that engulfed the stage at the start of the experiment was no accident. It was all part of an elaborate deception, make it appear that instantaneous kinesis had occurred. Well, goodness me, and if we accepted that this is what happened, it means that the victim, Mr. Assman, was never present on the public experimentation stage to begin with. Short. He couldn't have been killed by the defendant, who was on stage in full view of the entire time. Oh. Will be very hard for the prosecution to counter. Lord Van Zieks can't credibly maintain that Professor Hairbrain is a suspect now. Bitte, kannst du bitte ruhig sein? Oh Mann. Mr. Naruto, I appreciate your efforts. Thank you. Professor? But you can't stop now. Just keep your mouth shut, please. Nine. Sorry. What's all this about, Mr. Hairbrain? Albert Hairbrain, here we confess that it was me who stabbed Mr. Audi Assman. Warum? Warum? Yes, it was me with my faithful friend and partner, Andrew the screwdriver. What are you doing? What's... Order. Defendant explained the sudden confession. Nee. Professor Hairbrain, what are you talking about? It's... should have said all along. I must protect my hypothesis and my precious machine. You stand there and claim it was all a trick. An elaborate prank, but where's your proof? Ja, es muss nicht heißen, dass du das warst. Es kann vielleicht jemand anderes genutzt haben. Und dich nur ausgenutzt haben. Alter, reg dich mal ab, Mann. No, you have to examine the machine if you wanted to prove it, but then it would be all over. My beautiful hypothesis would be laid bare. I mean, the indignity of it. Oops. It's clear that you drew the plans for the experiment, but you didn't actually build it. It's quite conceivable that you were dubbed, Professor, if you will just let me... Barak. Yes. I will cooperate. I will do whatever you say. I swear it. So please, ensure that the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act is adhered to and protect my creation. Ja, erstmal was trinken. Pray forgive the discourtesy of filling my hallowed chalice at this critical juncture. Here's to my learned Japanese friend. What? And this upcoming attempt to clarify the defense's position in the light of the accused's confession. Do you intend to formally assert that the experiment was nothing more than a conjuring trick? Because the moment you do, Special Dispensation of a Scientific Equipment Act protects the professor invention will see the keys to apply. The prosecution will then demand a rigorous examination of the machinery involved in order to establish the truth. However, if you acknowledge that the machine is genuine and instrumental in the victim's murder, any chance of investigating will be crushed. The confidentiality of the professor's hypothesis is preserved. Well, Counsel, what is the defense official position on this matter? Alter, mir doch scheißegal. Oh, komm. Das ist ätzend. What Professor Hairbrain, my client, actually asked of me was to prove that the explosion on stage was an accident and protect the secrecy of his hypothesis. But there's no way to do that without implying the professor's guilt. Do I protect my client's life by asserting his innocence, or do I uphold my client's request but see him condemned? Either way, I can't avoid betraying his trust. You have been silent long enough. Isn't taking your trade, my learned friend? Or has all knowledge of English escaped your confused Japanese mind? Mr. Naruto, there's no escaping here. I have to make a choice. But it's an impossible one. I have to give up on something, but what? It asserts that the defense against this machine was in fact... Leben retten oder eine scheiß Hypothese retten? Was ist das? No, I can't say it. My client placed his faith in me. I can't just let him down. What must I give up on? It's not the question you have to ask yourself here. It's what can I protect? But, hello again, Mr. Naruto. It's been for too long. Susato-san? What? Hi! Ach, come on, wirklich? My first was a takedown in 6 months. There will be time to talk later, Mr. Naruto. For now, I must concentrate on the task at hand. Which is working out not what I have to give up on, but what I can protect. Professor Hairbrain? Yes? Yesterday you told me that science is a pursuit of truth. Well, my job is to pursue the truth too. Yes, of course. And personally, I believe that you didn't stab Mr. Assman. I think you have come to realize something yourself too, haven't you? That your experiment and the machine you built with the victim are questionable. The truth behind that is what we must both pursue now. Ah. So, you have finally opened your eyes. What? And as for you, Albert, you can't ignore this any longer. Ah. Having heard my learned friend's assertion, don't you have something to say? Barrack? Not 1-6? Gosh, I've never heard him speak that way before. In truth, there's one thing, something I've remembered that's of relevance. What? The day it happened, just before I began the experiment, I saw a man near the stage. A man holding the crossbow. I beg your pardon? Professor, did the man have any distinguishing features? What did he look like? Taller than me and thinner than me, with straight hair, straighter and whiter than mine. You see, one less than me too, a monocle with a stylish black monocle. But one thing in particular will help to possibly identify the man, you see. I know him very well. After all, he's the engineer who built my invention. What? He built the machine? That's right. That's when I introduced him to me a year ago. He's a man by the name of Enoch Drebber. Enoch Drebber? Does this name mean something? Members of the jury seem flustered. Not the name any scientist wishes to hear. The man says is an abomination. Not the name any conjurer wishes to hear either. Whose on earth is he? I'm afraid this isn't the first tale of this nature that I've heard in scientific cycles in connection with that name. The talk over the flamboyant experiments that turns out to be nothing but stage trickery in the end. Obviously, the rascal is after the government's research grant money. When Mexicans are in need of money, I've heard of them resorting to these underhand tactics. An acquaintance of mine with experience of such things have mentioned enough Drebber names before. The man is both an engineer and a magician. Yes, we are dealing with an unparalleled confidence trickster here. That's enough Drebber for you. Nice. So it's true then. My invention, my great machine, was just a grand illusion. Considering what we have just heard about Mr. Drebber's character, I'm sorry to say that sounds increasingly likely. Even though no one else believed it, I wanted to believe that the machine would function exactly as my hypothesis predicted. Which is why you were so opposed to it being investigated, I presume. I knew that if the machine was excellent in detail, its construction would give away my hypothesis. Obviously, I didn't want that to happen, but at the same time, I knew that if it was found to be nothing more than a trick, than a work of deception, then everything is worked towards all my research, all my dreams, and my whole life would be over. But terrifying at the prospect. You really had no idea then, did you? About the true nature of the machine that was built, and the true nature of the Mr. Drebber? I never questioned anything. I didn't want to question it. It's entirely possible that Mr. Esman and Mr. Drebber were working together to use you as a means of fraudulently acquire the research and money. When I announced my invention to the crowds that day, it was the finest moment of my career. I pulled all the leaves and turned all the dials in exactly the way Drebber had described. When the smoke suddenly started billowing out, I panicked. No, what happened? What was happening? But I really don't know how the whole illusion was made to work. I don't know anything anymore. Let me confirm one final point with you, Professor. You now consent to the prosecution submitting the necessary paperwork to release your invention from the protected afforded by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. Yes, please go ahead. I'm very sorry. It appears that we shall have suspend proceedings for the remainder of the day now. Advance 6, my lord. This court has newly been made aware of another party whose involvement in this matter is critical. Yes, Mr. Drebber. Get information about the man, if possible. I should like him served with a subpoena. With pleasure, my lord. Now, counsel for the defense. Yes, my lord. When we reconvene, I shall be looking for one thing, and one thing only from you. Evidence that the defendant is innocent of the crime for which he presently stands accused. I understand. Good. In that case, this court is adjourned until tomorrow morning. The 3rd October, 1:36 p.m. The Old Bailey, Defendant's Antechamber. Mr. Naruto. Yes? I'm so sorry. I was wrong. You were right. I tricked you. You trusted me. You tricked you into my mess. How did that ever come to this? I'm so sorry. Did you really have no idea, Professor? What Mr. Drebber was really up to? I mean, about what he was really constructing? Naturally. The machine was the embodiment of my hypothesis. All of my hopes and dreams. I had complete faith in it. Alright, in that case, I won't say anymore. Now, sadly the murder accusation against you still stands. So we must do as much investigation as we can before the trial resumes tomorrow. Well, thank you for doing so much for me. So sorry for arriving late this morning, Mr. Naruto. Arriving late? Did you receive my postcard? I wanted to let you know when I would arrive. Postcard? What postcard? I had it from you, Runo, so it would be a surprise. Well, did it work? I was surprised, alright, especially when she drew me to the ground. Oh dear, I'm so sorry. I was just so happy to see you again that it sort of slipped out. Maybe we could stick to more traditional displays of emotion in future. This train was late into London's Victoria this morning, you see. But we made the coachman really whip the horses hard so she didn't miss the whole trial. I was watching from the gallery for a while, but in the end, I'm afraid I couldn't contain myself. Well, I'm glad you didn't. Having you at my side in court gives me the strength I need to win. So, I'm delighted to see you back in London. Oh, you're too kind, Mr. Naruto. I'm delighted to be here. I hope I can continue to be of service to you. Of course, so... What's brought you back? Professor Mikotoba not protest? Let's save all the conversation for when we're back at home, shall we? You know, I've made one of my most special blends ever for the special occasion. Oh, I was so wonderful, I can't wait. The sun was back in London. It's hard to describe how happy that made me feel at the time, but despite my elation, our tale was about to take yet another extraordinary turn. To be continued. Ja, mach ich halt mal kurz 1-2 Minuten Pause. Mach ich mal kurz Pause. Bin dann gleich wieder da. So, jetzt kannst du. So, 23rd October, 9:41 p.m. Nervous Legal Consultancy. Oh, this room, it's been too long. It hasn't changed in the slightest though. Has it been some 6 months, hasn't it? That's a long time for things to say, so familiar. I didn't know when you might return. I wanted everything to be as you left it. But it has been some 6 months, it's true. Is your father alright, Susie? What happened? My father? Yes, Professor Mitakotoba. I mean, it was half a year ago, but that's when you went back to Japan. Because of the telegram we received saying he would fall ill with a very high fever for some unknown reason. That's right. I was surprised to learn you would be coming back soon. Surprised but happy. I wrote about it in my letter to you, but it was all a trick. But it's fine health, and I'm obviously very relieved about that. Well, we are all delighted to have you back. It was quite by accident that I've been able to return to Europe, actually. Because of a very grand conference called the International Forensic Science Symposium. And the International Forensic, that's the same symposium Lord Strongheart mentioned. Anyway, I arrived safe and sound, and all that matters is that I'm here now. After all, I haven't yet fulfilled my promise to you, Iris. Oh. You must tell us everything, but what happened while you were back in Japan. Yes, of course I shall. And there's one other thing. Something you wrote in your letter that particularly grabbed my attention. About you know who, about Casimir. I know. I'll tell you that that I can. When I first arrived back in Japan, I really thought I would never be allowed to return to Britain. Curiously, after that awful trial at the Supreme Court, Mother's mood changed entirely. Awful trial? Ah yes. The murder of Giselle Brett. Oh, you dressed as a man then, didn't you, Susie? Oh, well, yes. Since women are forbidden in the courtroom, I had no choice. Wow, amazing. I wish I would have seen it, don't you, Bruno? Yes, I suppose so. I want to play at being a lawyer now. I could wear a false mustache, maybe. I don't think any mustache could hide the fact that you are just a 10-year-old, Iris. There's something else I've been wanting to ask you, Mr. Sato. About the real reason why Professor Mikotoba summoned you back to Japan. You said in your letter it was something to do with that comic lyric we found in Mr. Sato's lodge. That's right, the very large dog collar we found with the B emblem on it. It seems Mr. Natsume included a drawing on the collar in the report of the submitted about this time in Britain. Understand that when Father saw the report he turned as white as a sheet. Why would that be then? He came to Britain himself, of course, to study. It was some time ago now, but he stayed for 6 years. I can only imagine that something must have happened during that time. But he refuses to tell me what it was, and I intend to find the answer for myself. And I decided that I, for one, won't keep any more secrets. Oh, Susie. That's very meaningful look, Susato-san is giving Iris there. Lord Strongheart mentioned something about that symposium too. I think he said that investigative authorities from 40 different countries would attend. Yes, and from Japan, my father and Judge Chikoku have been invited. Something of an honor, I believe. Well, Professor Mikotoba is the leading expert in forensic medicine in our country, after all. But who's the other person you mentioned? The judge, did you say? Yes, His Excellency Judge Seishiro Chigoku. You have met him, Mr. Naruto. Last year, in the Supreme Court. You can't possibly have forgotten. That terrible trial of yours when you were accused of murder. Ah, yes, I try to think of that as a positive turning point in my life these days. Well, it was Judge Chigoku who presided over the trial. I'm perfectly honest, I would be happy never to see that man's face again in my life. Oh, well, anyway, as father was invited in the symposium, he agreed to me returning to Britain too. He won't actually arrive until next month, but, well, I couldn't wait. So I pleaded with him, and the end of the agreed to me going to ahead. Yes, about the symposium. Seems as though Lord Strongheart has put in an awful lot of work to make it happen. Obviously very important. I believe it is, yes. As I understand it, Lord Strongheart organized the entire event himself. I think he is hoping that by achieving exceptional results, he will get the job of Attorney General, most senior position in the British justice system. He is hoping to use this power to create the world's finest policing institution. That's what Father said anyway. Apparently, it's Lord Strongheart's lifelong ambition. Does Professor Mikotoba know Lord Strongheart personally then, I wonder? Actually, Lord Strongheart gave me a long speech all about this very subject only yesterday. But I sort of lost the will to live early on and didn't really listen to much of it. Not trying it for you. Elaborate. The woman whose unforgivable actions ended in me being wrongly accused of a crime I didn't commit. The murder of John H. Wilson. Yes, to celebrate. It's a name I won't forget for as long as I live. The extraordinary thing is, though, seems it's a name we should all forget. Sorry. Since the incident, our government's intelligence services has been investigating Miss Brett. It turns out that an English woman by the name of Shepard didn't actually exist. Didn't exist, but how can that be? It was a pseudonym. Her real name was Shin. And she wasn't a visiting student either. That was a front. Who on earth was she then? Oh, a moment. Who on earth was she then? Miss A. Shin. Her name is literally all our intelligence service had been able to ascertain about her. Nobody knows why or even how she came to be in Japan. It's a complete mystery. But that makes no sense. It's not easy to task to be accepted as a foreign student anywhere. What could the woman have been up to? I'm afraid I really don't know. The only thing we can be sure of is that she had some business in our country that we don't yet understand. And now she has been killed, while all the questions surrounding her existence remain unanswered. I'm afraid so. Hey Shin, who on earth was she? Why do I feel though I have heard that name before somewhere? Oh no, what is... Okay. After my friend Ray's trial, the reporter who actually killed Miss Brett said something very strange. Now the truth, I know you had a hand in what went on. And that was the student's fate. Nobody here in Japan knows anything about it. They don't even know that the guy never made it into England, that he died on that steamship. And that he will never... Obviously, I couldn't ask him to elaborate at the time. But later, I visited the man in his prison cell and asked him what he was going to say about Kazuma-sama. And what did you learn? After he died on the voyage to Great Britain, his body should have been unloaded in the port of Hong Kong and passed into the care of consulate staff there. Should have been? Well, it turns out that his body never arrived. Just disappeared. What? Kazuma's body vanished? Our government tried to cover the fact up, it seems. They erected a grave on the cliffs by our hometown. Except Kazuma-sama isn't there. Did Professor Mikotoba know about this? Yes, it would seem that he did. But he didn't tell me. They're still investigating what happened to Kazuma-sama's body as we speak. I just don't believe it. What is this acute feeling of apprehension I have all of a sudden? Thinking back now, some of the things that happened on Suspiria were definitely strange. I mean, after he died, we never saw his body again, did we? Would it be that he's actually still alive? Stop a bit, Master Naruto. Too much to bear. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Just thinking about the possibility pains me so very much. Cast your mind back for a moment, Mr. Naruto. When Kazuma-sama was discovered, Jones was there, wasn't he? And he definitely examined the body. I remembered it clearly. You're right. If Kazuma hadn't actually been dead at all, it would mean that Mr. Sholmes had lied to us. But there's no reason why he would possibly have done such a thing. I suppose that's true. Yes. The idea that he might still be alive somewhere wants to fill me with hope, but I can't let it, because if it turned out not to be true, I would be back at the bottom of that awful pit of despair again. I'm terrified of what might do me. Oh, Miss Idato. I know, she's given the idea, the thought it deserves. Miss Idato's son we're talking about after all. But I probably shouldn't push it now. Okay. Ich kann auch nicht moven. Ah. Must be about a year ago now. I wrote a really long story based on some of my father's old notes. It's about one of earliest great exploits. I called it The Hound of the Basketball. But then Mr. Sholmes forbade you from publishing it. I put the manuscript somewhere nobody could get their hands on it. So nobody knows anything about it apart from Hurley and I. And for some reason, you knew the title of it, didn't you, Susie? Oh, it sounds so exciting, The Hound of the Basketballs. I'd love to read it. And you wouldn't tell me how you would come to know it? Yes, but I made you a promise that I would explain one day, didn't I? I think it's time. Oh. I'm only sorry I've had to keep it from you for so long, Iris. It was completely by accident that I came to know the title of your manuscript, Iris. It was a short while before we left Japan. I was cleaning Father's study and saw something on his written desk. A large box of papers. There was a label affixed to the box that was written in English and read, Hound of the Basketballs. What? My basketball story? Of course, I had no idea what it was at the time. But Father came in and... Toto, what are you doing? Oh, Father? You look at those papers? No, I simply read the label, that's all. Well, put it out of your mind. Sorry? Forget that you ever saw it, and certainly don't tell anybody else about it. You understand? Okay. But what was Iris' manuscript doing in Japan? Oh dear. When I heard Iris mention the word basketball that day, it just slipped out. I would never have guessed that it was an unpublished account of one of Mr. Schaum's exploits. When I returned to Japan, I asked Father to explain. He refused to answer any of my questions. There was no sign of the big box in his office. Really all I know about it. No doubt that Father was very good reason for being so secretive about it, but still. I made up my mind to explain myself to both of you. Well, thank you for being so honest, Susie. So, Mr. Nodo, ready to start investigating if you are. Committed every detail about this case with memory. Iris has told me about the disturbing happenings at the waxwork museum as well. No, you are fully abreast of the situation already, Miss Susato? I'd expect nothing less, to be honest. I would think our first port of call should be to investigate this Mr. Dweber, engineer responsible for building the elaborate machine that was used to effect this extraordinary trick. Yes, a conjunction of sorts, but the sound of it, well, known in the fields of science and magic. And we need to go and arrest him. Well, yes. We must know the truth behind this case, so I agree we really do need to find the man. It sounds like it's a case of tracking someone down, which is a job for the police, or a great detective. Are you supposed to guess who she might be thinking of? We don't have much time, so we need to get started straight away, I think. Good idea. Well, best of luck then. Ah, you are not coming today? I'm going to Brixton Road shortly for the herb market. But let me know later how you got on, won't you? A little abrupt, but the herb market must be strong. Dann geht's mal weiter. New location. Ich wohl nicht, aber hä, was New Location? Okay, ich fange einfach ganz oben an. This October, Schaum's Suite. Hier ist nichts los, außer... Ups. Nö, nichts los. Oh. The 3rd October by the Supreme Court, Lord Chief Justice Office. Ah, who's that standing beside Long Strongheart? I wonder. Never seen her before. Ah, the young champion of the court. You had some success this morning, I understand. And you have drawn the entire government into disarray as a result. Oh, you mean because of Professor Harebrand's experiment? Damn science being demonstrated in London's great exhibition. The country's being made to look foolish, and now politicians are scrambling to respond. All one seeks is in Whitehall as we speak, giving an emergency briefing. Oh dear, I don't mean to cause any trouble. None of this is our responsibility. The government is entirely to blame for having been taken on. The special dispensation that prevents investigation at the scene will be annulled later today. Once that happens, my forensic investigation team will move in and deal with the scrap metal in no time. Scrap metal now, is it? Until later then, Lord Strongheart. Yes, thank you. Who was that? That was Dr. Courtney's side, Scotland Yard's esteemed chief coroner. He's leading the forensic investigation team's handling of this case. I was just delivering a report about the victim and the fact. Oh, I see. About Mr. Esman? Following the outcome of the trial earlier, I asked the coroner officer to re-evaluate its findings. I don't have time to tell you what she concluded. If you want to know, you will have to ask her directly. You can find her in the forensic laboratory. Alright. Now, what were you here to see me about? I can give you 11 minutes and 39 seconds of my time. It's not running quite so spectacularly late anymore. What exactly is the forensic investigation team that you mentioned before? The British Empire's police force must become the most exemplary in the world. For that to happen, it's imperative that we embrace forensic science and everything it has to offer. I first created the forensic investigation team a year ago, now, unofficially of course, to pave the way. Goodness, a year ago? At next month's symposium, I tend to present the results of their work to the world. Once I do that, the House will be powerless to oppose the creation of full-scale forensic division. And once that happens, the position of Attorney General will be mine, and criminals will suffer dearly. What do you mean? For too long, the scoundrels have made a mockery of our legal system with false evidence and bribes. But London's scum is about to be rounded up and burned in the fires of hell. I intend to see to it personally. By creating the finest police force the world has ever known to protect our honor and our future. Look at those eyes. He means every word. Dr. Seth is an extremely reliable coroner. When I officially established the forensic division at Scotland Yard, I will run it as my right-hand woman. Now then, speaking of the symposium, Miss Mikodova. Oh, yes, my lord. Your father should be on the high seat as we speak, making his way here to represent the Empire of Japan. Yes, that's right, I understand he will arrive at the beginning of the next month. Are you acquainted, Lord Strongheart? With Professor Mikodova, I mean? It was many years ago now, but yes, I remember Dr. Mikodova very well. My memory serves, it was some 15 years ago now that your father came to Britain as a visiting student. It was the year I was born, so yes, 16 years ago in fact. Ein Moment. Weiter was a young practitioner of forensic science, and Jacob accompanied him as a young, promising judge. The punctuality and politeness of the Japanese at the time represented us greatly. Not that I wish to imply impoliteness or carelessness on your part in any way. I didn't think that you were. I studied forensic at one of London's large hospitals. And Sinners, if I'm not mistaken. Dr. Zeiss was also there then, as it happens. Then Dr. Zeiss knows my father, does she? He was a young medical assistant at the time, so the paths crossed regularly. I have no doubt that they knew each other superficially. Well, Dr. Mitodova was here studying as a subject for some 6 years in total? 6 years, that's a long time to be studying abroad, isn't it? I lived with my grandmother in those years, so he left his newly born daughter behind and went overseas for 6 whole years. It was a rather turbulent time at home. Oh, perhaps father wanted a reason to get away. What do you mean? Why? Well, clearly something was going on at the time. I wanted to ask you about Lonvat Six actually. I heard that his older brother was killed some years ago. But a mass murderer known as the Professor targeted nobles in royalty, is that right? The Japanese are a thorough lot. You have done your research well. Yes. And you could say it was that very incident that gave rise to the Reaper. What? Why? When his brother Clint Von Seeks was murdered, it was just after young Baroque has graduated from the University of London and become a prosecutor. When obvious criminals who managed to evade conviction in court started disappearing. Rumors quickly spread throughout the capital. Londoners started to say that wherever Baroque Von Seeks went, the ghost of his dead brother wasn't far behind. Oh my word! So Lonvat Seeks isn't the Reaper? It's the ghost of his brother? Ever since that time, he became a very aloof figure in London's legal cycles. Oh yes, that's Strongheart. Go ahead. About Professor Harebrand's experimental machine. I would like your permission to examine the remains, if possible. Are you well refused in science then? Not in the slightest. In fact, you could say I was barely aware of the subject at all until recently. Well, the special dispensation legal preventing investigation on the machine is currently being annulled. Within a few hours, Dr. Zeiss' team of forensic experts will begin their own investigation. The pause until then, There has no harm in you looking at the wreckage, as long as you touch nothing. Thank you. Being able to look at this better than nothing. I will be able to see it through. The time is up. You'll have to excuse me now, I'm afraid. Next engagement calls. I'm really sorry to have troubled you when you are so busy, my lord. I have important matters to attend to in preparation for this symposium, you understand? Okay, würde ich hier einfach mal den beenden, Pause machen. Mal gucken, wann ich dann weitermache. Dann beende ich das hier mal. Und gehen wir rüber. Dann bis zum nächsten Mal.